Alright, so in this video we're going to kind of tackle one of the more controversial elements of the writing in this class. It's where you'll see sometimes on your DBQs a WW. And this is indicating that you've used some weak words that we need to shore up. And the reason for this is because we're at a college prep school. We're trying to prepare you for college. And college is a different environment. They're going to expect you to write in a collegiate manner. Not as if you're writing a letter or writing a text to your friend, but that you are writing to be seen as a professional. The writing you're going to do in college is going to reflect what the professional world is going to want from you. And the presentations that you make as a professional. An engineer is not going to talk in a presentation or write in a report like they would at home with their friends. So we're trying to get you ready for that world. You've got to put your best foot forward and enter that world now to get ready for it. So you're going to need to take some of these words that you use every day and change them and make them more professional. You want to be like these people. We're given a business presentation, but if you don't use the jargon and you don't use terminology that makes you seem educated and makes you seem like you're an expert, they might as well be laughing at you, right? Because you're never going to get whatever you want to get from that meeting. Alright, so why? Which words are weak? Well, it depends on the word and phrase. Some phrases and words are going to be weak because they've been overused. They're almost cliche. Like when you, we'll get to those. You can also be vague, where you're not direct enough. You can be timid. So a lot of times I've seen students with this in their writing, they're timid. They don't think they're educated enough in a certain topic to make a stand and make a thesis statement, so they hedge it. They add some words in there that actually detracts their credibility. That makes it look like they don't know exactly what they're talking about. So that's what it means to be timid. Or it's just redundant. It's words that aren't needed. And a lot of times you're adding this onto another word, and the words are working together don't necessarily help each other out. So let's take a look at the overused words first. All right, so overused words, made out of. All right, so that's made out of this or made out of that. We see this a lot. So switch to composed of two metals or something like that. I know it's simple and it may not seem important, but if you're using composed of rather than made out of, that's going to give you a little bit more credibility. Right? Like, if you're trying to compare items, you're going to start to sound like Valley Girl, and that's not going to be good. I've sat through speeches where like was said every fourth word. It's not fun, and that person doesn't seem educated. Sadly, one of those speeches was the valedictorian speech of the history department, which I graduated from. Yeah, that's not cool at all. Or it wasn't for me, and it wasn't for the other people who were in my row who were just kind of shaking their head. How did this person actually get better GPA than us? Because it didn't speak well to their abilities to present that information. All right, so when comparing items, use similar to. Not saying that you can't use like, but try to use it less. If you know that that's one of your problems, get in the habit of trying to use it less. And there are definitely more of these. I can't list every single weak word in this presentation, but if you seem to be using a word more and more and more, that's when you need to cut it off. Okay. Sometimes words are just vague, and you need to change them because they're vague. Words like go, when you're describing a movement. Well, how are they going? Describe that movement a little bit more directly. Are they skipping? Are they walking? Are they running? Are they jogging? Are they moving expediently? How are they going? When you're talking about something that you have or that you've recently gained, a lot of people say, I got this, I got that, I get this, I get that. You use it more and more and more and more, people start to think that you don't know another word other than got for describing receiving something, acquiring something, or some other term that means what you really want to say, but you've just fallen on using got or get. Big, okay, how big? My computer screen's big, but it's not as big as a skyscraper. Skyscrapers in the United States are big, but they're not as big, not as tall as the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Something's bad or good, yeah, Hitler's bad, but the word bad doesn't necessarily describe just how evil and maniacal Hitler was. So saying Hitler is bad, that's not going to cut it. And if you talk about stuff all the time, that you've got stuff, or that you just aren't clear about what you have or what is going on, you just say stuff, that's a word that's really too vague. Other problems that I want to kind of talk about is when you're timid in your writing, when you're not speaking or you're not writing with authority, like you know what you're speaking about or what you're writing about. A lot of times people or students will write, this possibly happened, or this could have happened, or this might have happened. Well, you're the one that did the research. You're the one that read. You're the one that I am trying to figure out, do you know this or not? If you're giving me a lot of coulda, shoulda, woulda, and possiblies, that means you're not as confident in your knowledge as you should be. So you need to have a foundation, and that foundation needs to be strong. You need to build a strong foundation in your writing. So you want to avoid this house. That strong foundation comes when you have a thesis statement. It is a strong thesis statement, and you build your arguments out of that thesis statement, and you connect everything back to that question. That is going to lead you to be able to write with authority and write a very well-crafted DBQ response. Excuse me. So we're going to take a second and compare some of these arguments, because that's one of the things that a lot of people talk about. Well, why are we not going to use possibly when there's kind of some, maybe the possibility that something didn't happen? Well, let's take a look at these two arguments and see which one kind of seems to be more informed. All right, so the first one. The Allied bombing of Dresden during World War II represents possibly the worst example of targeting civilization populations during the war. Around 25,000 people died in a rate that could have been prevented. There's nothing technically wrong with this set of sentences. It's not necessarily a paragraph yet, but there's nothing technically wrong with it. Grammatically, there might have been a grammar error in there. I haven't checked it that thoroughly. There's nothing technically wrong with it. Well, let's take a look at the second one and see what's going on with it. The bombing of Dresden represented one of the worst examples of targeting of civilian populations during World War II. Experts estimate that 25,000 people died at a rate that proved to be of little military use. Right. What has this paragraph done differently than that one? Well, it doesn't talk about possibly the worst example. It says represented one of the worst examples. So with this one, it's letting us know that there could be other examples of targeting civilian populations during World War II that were worse, but this is up there in the list. This is saying it's possibly the worst. It could be on the list, it could not be on the list. I haven't done my research enough to say whether it has or not. They've probably done the same amount of research as this person. This person leaves a little wiggle room, but is very assertive in that it is one of the worst examples of targeting civilian populations. Also down here, a lot of times people don't want to write in a way that it makes them seem like they're the expert. You don't have to. You just have to acknowledge the experts. So instead of saying around 25,000 people died in a rate that could have been prevented, experts estimate. Experts, you are giving up that authority, not necessarily in a bad way, but you're saying that this isn't coming from me. This is coming from people who have studied this really, really much more thoroughly than I have. And that they estimate. They don't have hard and fast numbers on this. Right, over here it says around 25,000, but they're saying it estimated that 25,000 people died during a raid that proved to be of little military use. So they are the same paragraph. They're getting at the same point. This one is doing it in a more of a professional manner and speaking from authority, and when they do have to give that authority up to experts, they make sure that you understand that the experts are doing the estimating and not you. Sometimes words can be redundant, and we've got to get rid of them as well. Right? So absolutely essential or absolutely necessary. Essential means the same thing as absolutely essential. This works as kind of a multiplying by 1. If you multiply something by 1, what do you have? The same thing. Right? Absolutely essential means the same thing as essential. Right? Essential means that it is necessary, it is needed. You can't have more needed than that it is very, very much needed. Advanced warning or advanced planning, well, all warning is going to be done in advance of an event. Planning is going to be done in advance of an event. So you don't need advance there. Added up, well, yeah, all things are going to be added up. So all you have to say is that these numbers were added. Completely destroyed, filled, eliminated. Well, if you're filling something, you're filling it completely. If you're destroying something, you are destroying something completely, unless otherwise kind of explained. You could halfway destroy something, but if you're going to halfway destroy something, you should explain it. If you say it was destroyed, well, the assumption is that it's completely gone. And there's other ones that fit this list of redundant. I'm not going to sit here and go through all of them. There is a website here called boostblogtraffic.com with weak writing. That'll give you some tips because, again, this isn't just about professional writing. It's all writing. If you want to write poetry or music, other types of written word, even blogs, you're going to want to make it as concise, as neat, and well educated as possible. So take these tips and do that.